in 1980, Ruggero Deodato created his masterpiece. In what would eventually become known as the most controversial film of all time, Cannibal Holocaust pushes the boundaries of cinema and indeed morality in ways we probably never will again. I am the Italian Horror Guy, and this is the Italian Horror Guy podcast. So, I possibly let that go on a little bit too long, but as we all know, that is the most glorious and possibly the most beautiful piece of music ever created in any context for anything. Now, I know that might sound a little bit dramatic, and perhaps it is, but I know that when I hear that music, I am confused in all sorts of different ways because it is inarguably extraordinary. And possibly the most extraordinary thing about it is the fact that it was created after the film was made, which means that the musician, whose name escapes me right this second, saw the film and thought, well, this would make the most sense. So I hope that Riz Ortolani, there it is on screen for me. I hope that this that sounded okay. I am doing another watch along, I think, because I find them quite fun, and I think I get my thoughts out about these films in much different ways in this format than the usual or the previous one. I think I'm so torn with this film. Well, maybe not torn, but I think at the end of the day, I actually want to believe that it's a really good film. Of course, maybe that's not the point, because I don't think it got its controversy and its notoriety from being good or bad, but from being really controversial and in many ways disgraceful. However, I have always felt that there's an inherent contradiction, and I think we all know, living in 2022, that there is a natural, shall we say, inconsistency to the way that we apply morality, and one of the things that this film does is plays on your emotions by showing you things that you really don't want to deal with. But I don't know if I've made this point before on the podcast or on any of my other ones, but people claim to be moral, but you can affect someone, I don't know, probably 1,000 times as much by showing them something horrific than by describing it to them. And that naturally makes sense. But what I don't think makes as much sense is if you're trying to portray yourself as a moral person, but you will not really sort of worry about things unless you've seen them. This is a really sort of hot topic, I think, politically speaking, around the world, but emanating mainly from the United States, where I think people claim to be arbiters of moral arbiters regarding wanting certain change, but it's really only a small subset of issues that get highlighted by the media because you see images of them, and then frankly when it comes to other things that people have had described to them or just sort of been told about, they don't care. I guess to put it simply, people, let's say lefties, who are quite happy with the way Joe Biden withdrew from Afghanistan on a logical level could be told, yes, but now 19 million people are at risk of starving to death, and that would make no difference to certain people whatsoever, even if they know that that's true. But if they saw one person starving to death, they would think, "Oh my God, we need to do something about this." So anyway, that's a bit of a rant. My point is, this film makes people angry, and it makes people hate Deodato. It makes people hate the filmmakers, and I understand the response. It is upsetting, but how many animals and creatures get killed? And we just sort of chalked it up to, well, nothing. We just don't care. And we say, oh, well, look at how moral I am. I don't want to see that. But in actual fact, I personally think it's very selfish. Like, I'm not moral at all. I don't want to see that. Go murder the animals off screen where I don't have to deal with it. And then I know there's the argument about, well, what are you killing it for? Oh, it's just for the sake of film. Well, there are, I think, plenty of animals killed that don't need to be outside of film-related stuff that people don't care so much about. So what really got me thinking about this was on my version of Cannibal Holocaust that I'm watching along with currently. There is this write-up. It's almost reminiscent of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. With just, words sort of scrolling up the screen. And the gist of that is we are saying, oh, well, this is really bad, and we don't condone. Like that the film's very clear, and it's got that other piece of music from this film that's very effective, although there are a number of those. Saying that we don't condone this, something about it not being acceptable and it's from a bygone era and that we never want to see it again, blah, blah, blah. And that's all very well and good. So whoever produced this version, why are you putting it out then? Honestly, like, I don't think you can... And see, to be clear, I'm not even saying... Like, I'm potentially immoral. I'm potentially part of that problem, if indeed it is a problem, right? Where it's like, I'm not condoning this, but for some reason I'm watching it, and I quite enjoy it in a sort of perverse way. But, like, I don't know, I think it was some movie, I can't think what it was, like something possibly slightly less controversial than Cannibal Holocaust. I think it was like a Disney movie on Disney Plus. It could have been Mulan or something like that. Anyway, you've all heard of this kind of thing where like they put a disclaimer at the start of the movie because it had been brought up. Again, I can't remember which one it was, but there was a disclaimer because some kind of thing depicted in it or some kind of attitude that comes out of it was controversial or whatever. But then they didn't take it off the platform. And it's like, fuck me, how good is that for having your cake and eating it too, right? Because it's like, well, we are acknowledging how bad this is, but of course then it made the news. Because whatever was on, it was either on like Disney Plus or Netflix or something. So then it's like people hear about this, some people get pissed off and watch it. So how dare they cancel this? And then other people are like, yeah, they should cancel it. And then they go and watch it. So... even like this version I've got, it says at the top, the most controversial movie ever made, and then it's got a sort of animation of the girl with the pole through her, and yeah, it's like, can we really justify this? But anyway, I'll get into some actual more technical discussions of the film. I think I'll watch about an hour of it, maybe not consecutively, but parts of it. They're doing that. We're in that sort of boring phase of the film at the moment. I think that's probably one thing worth mentioning. There's a lot of filler in this film, and I think that's where, like, you wouldn't expect that, right, from if you just heard about it. But we're in that section of the film where we get sort of, they're like on the edge of the Green Inferno, with those army military guys. I don't know what the fuck. And Robert Kerman, he's just arriving now on the plane. Don't worry, I'll turn it up from time to time. And they just sort of have general discussions about things. Like, there's not really a lot happening. And it's sort of hard to believe because it's like, you know, we talk about this as like the original found footage film. It takes them a fuckload of time to find the footage. And I guess I just find it interesting because, like, I think you could argue that the aspects of this film that endeavour to be, you know, what would we say, like a film, like a normal film, I think sort of fail at the most basic level. Like, I mean, because all this stuff's really quite boring. And that's fine, like, you know, get to murdering the stuff. But, like, I guess that's the part of it where it's like, as a horror fan, and because there are amazing moments in this film, you do really want it to be good, I think. So the element or the aspect of it that I sort of find most memorable is that there are scenes that, you know, there are scenes that I think don't merit their level of recognition. So I've watched it a few times. I've watched this film a lot of times, and there's obvious the eating of the turtle, probably the whole sequence at the end where they all get murdered. 'Cause I mean, to be frank, I actually think that's really well shot. Like, it's quite an extraordinary scene. And of course the pole with the girl. And then of course it's sort of probably, I assume, famous for its sort of, you know, rhetorical morality towards the end of the film. Or right at the end of the film, whatever the real cannibals are. I think that's a quote I've used many times in this podcast. But hands down for me, the moment of this film is when they rip through the village. There's an absolutely extraordinary shot, I think, of I feel the like the more Italian looking one of the crew, I think is the camera guy. After they burn the huts and there's all the fire and he's sort of holding up his gun victoriously, like that is some extraordinary cinematography, and it doesn't get credit for that. Like, and I think the amazing thing is, like, that scene in and of itself, in terms of the morality it depicts, I don't think that's the part that would be controversial, right? Because it's very, very clear in that moment the film is being, like, it's engaging in social commentary. Albeit, I do believe they actually burned those huts and they had people running out of them. So that might merit some degree of controversy, I suppose. But yeah, it is an extraordinary scene. And I'll actually see what the skipping situation is here. How many scenes there are. And how far it'll skip. Yeah, so all this stuff with Robert Kerman sort of wandering through the wilderness or the forest or whatever the fuck you call it with this this local is a bit like boring, you know, because it's sort of like it's retracing the ground of the film, but before it's actually traced it. I don't think we really care about this aspect, so I'm going to skip past it. I do think that scene where they fall on the they fall on the skeleton of the guide. I love the line, "I wonder what was his mistake." I haven't just mangled the Hispanic accent there. I find that I find that great because there's some real foreshadowing there in terms of the film. There is truly helping us understand what these characters are in for, because he says they. What does he say? He knew these forests, he knew these woods as well as I did, or whatever the quote is. And yeah, like, to me it's like that emphasizes just how dangerous it is, right? Because he was the experienced one of the group. They're just finding the turtle shell now. Seems like there's quite a few scenes. He falls on him now. It's also just quite decent acting from this guy who, as far as I know, wasn't in a lot of different things. Damn good scene. Right, so now we arrive at the, I suppose, ritual murder of this woman who's committed adultery. And like, this scene sort of feels a bit like it was chucked in there to get us a little bit of, get our controversial or our controversy juices flowing before we get to the real stuff. I mean, it's an unbelievably uncomfortable scene. I mean, it's an awful scene just watching it now. I'll just actually get so we can hear the music. This is honestly one of the most.
Oh, I swear that was like a ritualistic punishment for adultery. That's what it is. Just sit back and enjoy the show. Afterwards.
Yeah, see, that dialogue to me is absolute rubbish, right? A ritualistic punishment for blah blah. It's like, just think about the pure absurdity of it. That you're somehow schooled well enough in this kind of concept to have a vague idea of what a ritualistic punishment for adultery would look like under these troubled circumstances. And then you would just happen to see one. Like, there's no real scope laid out in this film for how many people are in these communities, but it can't be that fucking many, right? It doesn't seem to be that many. So it seems extraordinarily lucky, in want of a better term, that you would just see this kind of thing, right? There is something quite powerful about the guy stopping Robert Kerman for going and doing something about it, or Professor Monroe. Like, you know, again, I think the film, it gets its point across. And this is honestly a truly horrific scene. This is horrible. But again, I mean, this is the nature of this film, because in some ways that's one of the not so controversial parts of the film because it's not real in the same way, right? Presumably this woman wasn't really killed. But yeah, there's an element of it that's just a little bit too easy, I think. You know, and again, I just feel like the film's a little bit lost at this point. You know, the stakes seem so much higher. I don't know. I'm trying to work through verbally how I feel about this whole section of the film, but there's something about it that just isn't that doesn't quite align with the rest of the film, I think. And fuck me, it just goes on so long. I've skipped this so many times. And here they are. They're finally arriving at the little encampment. It has to be said, and this is partly the nature of the controversy of the film, but it isn't just that, actually. It's probably more the way the film... It's probably the fact that it's a better made film than most of these cannibal films. It earns the right to actually have us feeling sympathy for the tribes. And I think I've said this because I've done a few cannibal episodes. And I think one of my criticisms, I mean, there are so many ways that you can criticize these films, obviously. But I think one of the main criticisms of them is largely because, and I think this is largely because they're poorly made and poorly written, that when we're like, they do all of the moral pontificating, right, about how poor, how sad and unfortunate everything is for the, you know, the I wonder who the real cannibals are thing. Well, yeah. The Westerners are evil and stuff, but the tribes are generally depicted in a way that suggests we're, you know, we're probably not as bad as them, you know, and largely because of that scene where they rush through and destroy the village, we can see a process, albeit in reverse, of why they're so bad, because, and they don't even they treat Robert Kerman and crew with skepticism and fear, probably mainly fear. They're unsure, but it's not their natural instinct to attack them. Albeit there is a sense that they might kill them at some point. But this is based on them having absolutely earned of the Western usurpers, infiltrators, whatever you want to call them, to be seen that way, because. And I actually think that's probably one of the really powerful things about the scene where they sweep through, is there is that same skepticism, but they don't attack them, right? They see them, and they don't immediately think, well, we need to kill these people, and you know, I think horror films, generally speaking, use excess. When a horror film is being effective, it's using excess to to depict a truism, right? And I think within the context of, I always feel like they sort of reach to the symbolism around, the Vietnam War and all that kind of thing in the era a little bit too much. However, if it's done in an effective way like it is in this film, I think you can justify the comparisons. If we are talking about the depiction, or not even depiction, the sense of dehumanization of those people, right? Those faraway people, and Western people not really giving a shit. And this isn't me, by the way. I'm not commenting on the legitimacy or lack thereof of the Vietnam War. I'm speaking specifically of the innocent people that were affected by it and the indifference with which they were treated. This film absolutely engages with that very, very effectively. Like so effectively. And the excess, I think, is... Yeah, don't get me wrong. I assume, although I don't claim to be an expert, just have a little knowledge. I assume there was a degree of like being able to get ratings with depictions of what was happening in Vietnam and that kind of thing. So it's exploitation. The excess in this film is like the active creating of horrific situations and just the extreme malevolence, right? I think again, I might be wrong on this. I assume that there was some degree of malevolence in some of the stuff that was going on there, but there was malevolence in the characters in this film, right? And indifference, right? I think it's really powerful when the lady, I can't think of her name, but I think Francesca Ciardi's the actress. When they're during that rape scene, and she's getting really fucking angry, but she's angry because they're wasting the footage, right? Like that's, and I don't think that's done in an unconvincing way. It is quite consistent with everything that's going on. So it's not just the horrific stuff that's happening, right? And this is where the film, I think, does have some degree or quite a degree of legitimacy. And now here we go again. So we've got this weird scene of the other tribe, the slightly darker skinned tribe, which is sort of interesting now that I think about it, because okay, it's this sort of war-ish thing, right? And it's... Again, none of this section of the film is particularly memorable, but they shoot a couple of the darker ones and show that they're on the side of the slightly lighter skinned ones. But like the colour of their skin and even the hair a little bit, I think is probably there to distinguish to us visually that there are warring tribes, and that's all very well and good, but if you actually think about it and how evolution works, right, these tribes are located in like the same fucking jungle, and given they've never modernized and never been colonized, they have presumably been in this state for hundreds of thousands of years, if not more. It doesn't make sense if they're located in the same basic part of the world that the colour of their skin would be different. That happens when people migrate. Anyway, that's another side note that you probably shouldn't just think too much about, but I don't know. And again, like there's a scene where they've captured a couple of the other ones and they're killing them. But again, I don't how many people actually live in these tribes. Because if they kill them at this rate, then they'd all go extinct awfully quickly. So we're at the latter stages of the finding of the stuff, and Monroe's just found a watch, and I suppose there's a degree of coolness in the way this this concept unfolds where Monroe does a tape recording of that weird ritual thing, and then he plays it back to them. We're just at the point now, again, skipping through, where, we'll say Robert Kerman gets in the lake, and all those women come and start frolicking with him. And obviously he's a porn actor, so was his main thing. It's sort of humorous the way they're all hiding in the grass and they just appear. But obviously he's got a bit of experience with this kind of stuff, so they move around him, literally frolicking around him. And now they're going and praying at the corpses of the people. As I skip through, fuck, this scene goes on forever. Right, here we go. Let's turn it up. Get a bit of action on what's going on, guys.
And so, in exchange for the tape recorder, the Cannibal chief let you take away the cans of film. Is that it? Yes. They thought that since I was capable of capturing the human voice, I was also capable of capturing their spirit. This convinced them that I was the only one capable of breaking the evil spell that had been cast over the tribe by their murder of the whites. Of course, they had no inkling of what was really in those cans. How could you explain what a movie is? They just felt that they were a threat. Why do you say threat? Well, the Yamamomos understood how important these film cans were to Alan Yates and his crew. They thought...
Yeah, so interesting thing. So this is a really cool, I think. Again, I hope you heard all that. This is a really interesting transition part of the film, because obviously I think we understand this is the crux of the film, right? This is what we came here for the morality of this disgusting film. I've never thought about it, this particular scene in this way. Is what Robert Kerman, Monroe saying there? In fact, I'll turn it back up. I'll turn it back up.
I'd like to review all the film material, as yet we've seen none of it.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right. I wonder if there's an element of him being sort of being a bit sensationalized on purpose because that was a TV interview. Because he speaks with an assuredness. Now, again, it might just be slight laziness on the part of the filmmakers, because that information that he's giving, it doesn't seem like he could have, garnered all that definitively in the way that he acts as though it is definitive. But that's all well and good. But yeah, probably worth considering that. Is he initially part of the problem where he's trying to engage with this stuff? Here's this last Road to Hell doco within the movie. Now, this is a forgotten about part of Cannibal Holocaust, but to me, this is actually really, really significant. One, because I think the way that this imagery is put together with the music is actually very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. And I mean, it really is like the same kind of footage that we get that came out. This is where things are very Vietnam-like, right? I know this kind of imagery actually existed at the time, so I just hope that is staged, right? As you know, I'm not saying that's a snuff movie or something like that. I'm just saying I know this kind of footage did exist at the time. But this is something that, it's an observation I've made, and I do occasionally bring it up with people who've watched the film and they never have really thought of it. At the very end of the film, when we sort of watch the ending of the footage along with, them, right? And then all the horrific stuff happens, and then I want the director dude or the producer dude, he calls whoever he calls. So I want the footage burned, all of it. I think the implication is not only that this footage is bad, but everything that they've shot is bad. So at the end of the last Road to Hell footage that the woman shows him, and he's very uncomfortable, she reassures him and says, well, to give you an idea of how they operated, that was all faked. And because she has the same looks of discomfort at the end as well, I think the implication is, oh wait, that it was always real. But see, here's the other thing. And again, but I wonder if the actual quality of this film is not hidden. It's just it's because other things are so extreme, we don't think about it. We don't think about the subtle qualities of it. They only, and this I think includes Monroe, because he sort of has the moral high ground for a time, right? He says, you haven't reviewed the rest of the footage I have. It only seems to be the very last section that is too much for people. And that's when the white people start getting killed. I'm pretty sure they've seen all of the burning of the huts and stuff, and they're okay with it. Like, they're not comfortable with it, but it's like, this is okay. We can film this. And sort of there's this inherent contradiction, because as obviously awful as the footage is at the end, again, I'm speaking as if it's all real, to us as well, but it isn't obviously. If that's, if that's not okay, then why was everything previous to it okay? So, I guess what I'm saying is the last scene of the film, I hope I don't come across as conceited when I say this. The last scene of the film, in the way people interpret it, I think they overrate it. And I don't like it as much as people do. Because I think there's a borderline, and I might actually be wrong. I'll sound so conceited, especially if I'm actually wrong here, because I am guessing. Partly. There's a slightly moral high ground element of Monroe in the scene. Like, I wonder who, like, not that he says it that way, but the look on his face, I wonder who the real cannibals are, right? In that sense, it's like, obviously it's rhetorical, but it's also super duper obvious. So in that way, it's like, yeah, fine, there's a reason for saying this, and that's all very well and good. But are you not over, like, is it not too easy film, right? However, if there's actual I think there is actual brilliance to it, because I think he thinks he has moral high ground, but he doesn't. Because he's the person who's been sort of traipsing around, and he's determined to find these people. But I think he makes the same mistake. They're already doing immoral things before he really starts to get uncomfortable. And of course, the whole journey is immoral, because what are they doing? Right? Like, if they're just there to document what happened, or like the lives of these people, that's inherently exploitative in and of itself, right? So, yeah, I wonder if that scene is actually possibly better than people interpret it. Anyway, let's skip through. So here they are catching the turtle. I don't think there's any need to say much about that. And they're wandering through places doing nothing. Have they arrived now? Is this it? This is bad.
They could play it rough when they felt they had to. Remember how they set up some of those executions?
Yeah, again, I think that that reinforces what I was just saying before. Set up some of those executions. So here we are. We're at what I think is the pinnacle of this film, and it's not just like it's the whole thing. The whole shooting of this scene is extraordinary, right? There's sort of graininess to the handheld camera aspect of it. The way they're looking at them, the complete lack of respect, the going up close and filming them, and also the fact that Carl Gabriel York completely screws up the bit that we're about to hear. But the way, especially Perry Perkinen and the other dude, Tommaso, like they just look like pricks, right? Like you can tell in real life they wouldn't be that approachable, and they are so suited to this scene. And that's another thing I've never really thought about there, but Francesca Chadig, and I can't remember their names within the film. She's got a look on her face like, all right, we need to get something good. She takes the camera. She decides to shoot. I'll kick that pig. I'll turn it down because I don't want to hear it dying.
Human history. Things like this happen all the time in the jungle. It's survival of the fittest. In the jungle, it's the daily violence of the strong overcoming the weak.
So here we go. And, like just about all of this is done with sort of handheld footage. Tommaso there falls over, and I suspect it's an accident. And again here on the morality, actually, we hear the line, a setup, all the setup.
A setup, all a setup. Just like Cambodia.
Yeah, so, but this is completely immoral because they know that they burn their huts down, right? And so as a setup, and we've made the Yakumas or whoever, or the Yanomamo, whatever they are. Fuck, this is such a powerful scene. shot of Alan's his name, shooting it behind the fire. Tommaso being a cunt, pushing him back in. Fuck me. I think they show a corpse there that I'd never noticed before. So yeah, like we know that the producers have seen that now, and it isn't too far yet. We've just seen them burn down the village and I believe murder a couple of people. And also there's something quite genius about this, the placement of this sex scene right after. It's this sort of like sexual celebration of what's just happened, and also the pure arrogance of it all as well, to have done that. But it's like, look, if there's a criticism of it, right, it's like, you know, again, it is the excess of the horror film as a concept. But it's like, are we really to buy that all four of these people are this fucking evil? Because they're evil to an extent that's really, it's like, it's both malevolent and indifferent. Like it's unbelievable. And it's just so arrogant. But I don't know, I'm just, I wonder if the aspect of the film that's slightly, well, there are probably a few, but one of the aspects of the film that's slightly harder to believe is like, what exactly did they think was going to happen? And indeed, if they didn't think there was going to be some kind of reprisal, why didn't they do more to stop it? Anyway. Or, well, I feel like the reprisal happens largely because of the rape. Although I'm just trying to conceptualise in my head. Stupid woman.
I don't think exception is the right.
Yeah, so right, okay, so Monroe right now is...
No. I mean, what's exceptional about a primitive tribe of the Yakumo being terrorized and forced into doing something they don't normally do?
Come on now.
Again, I don't know. Am I wrong? I feel like you see a corpse in that burning scene anyway, but like... So, Monroe now is only, like... So he's slightly more moral because he's showing a degree of...
That's what Alan thought, that's why he's dead.
Like, he's showing a degree of, like, empathy and stuff,
He
but...
has to be respected as such. You know, did you ever think of the Yakumo point of view, that we might be the ones who are savages?
Well, I've never thought of it that way, but it's an interesting idea.
Yes. Let's say things were reversed, right? And the Yakumo attacked your house, defiled everything that your house bore. You know that pig that was killed? That was food for those people. Now, what had happened if somebody came to your house when you were hungry and took a little bit of food you had in the refrigerator and threw it down the toilet? Would you behave in a civilized way? Would you like people to make money off your misery?
We have succeeded in establishing, shall we say, diplomatic relations with the Yakumas, but what are we to them?
So like, you know, I wonder if the film sort of it straddles the line of like interesting morality and simply just feeding us really obvious ideas, I think. And that woman seems to play the role of like really dumb person who hasn't considered that they're people too, you know. There's a lot of filler crap in this film, isn't there? Like, it works because a lot of it's just like it does give a realistic sense of them going through the jungle, but it also means that they have to write that many different things. Oh, here we go.
This so-called documentary footage is offensive, it is dishonest, and above all, it is inhuman.
Yes, of course. We all know what Alan was like. He overdid it as usual. But what you saw is a rough cut.
Perhaps I haven't made myself clear, but I refuse to have anything to do with this material.
Look, Professor, we are talking about the most sensational documentary to come along in years. And you want us just to shelve it, to forget about it, as if it never been found? Is that what you want?
Yes. That is precisely.
this is the I don't know. It's almost Deodato laughing at us a little bit, I think. Right, because it's like he knows full well what he's doing with this film, and he's, you know, it's like, oh, I'm being super controversial, but because the people within the film are telling us how controversial it is, it's like, well, that's okay then. You know, it's that sort of meta thing, and everyone's really obsessed with being super meta now. But I don't know. Does it really have the right to do this? Probably not, but it does it anyway. But again, like, so I think, you know, Munro has seen the rest of the footage, including the rape. Actually, probably an interesting thought. I'll just see if I can push through to it. Have I gone too far? No, I think I'm good. Alright, here we go. So I've gone past the rape scene, which is good. Oh, fuck. As in, it's good that I went past it. I don't like the rape scene. And here's the second most extraordinary moment of the film. When they find the impaled young lady.
Watch it, Alan. I'm shooting. Oh, good Lord. It's unbelievable. It's horrible. I can't understand the reason for such cruelty. It must have something to do with some obscure sexual rite or with the almost profound respect these primitives have for virginity.
I mean, everything about this scene is very moving. The lengths through by which it has to be.
You rolling, Mark?
It takes for her the woman to, like, she's looking at him like, are you serious? You know, that. But even then, she isn't that moved. Like, what we're seeing, like, if that actually happened in real life, if you actually saw that, that would be the most horrific thing just about you could ever see. Like, she's just impaled, it's gone right through her body. And she's there, she doesn't care, right? As in, she cares a little bit. She seems slightly disgusted by the situation. But Alan's doing his thing, you know, he's pretending he cares. And the way he puts it on, he puts it on her like, he puts it on the tribespeople like, wow, that they've got this unbelievable respect for virginity, and he does it in this demeaning way. But it's because they raped her. And of course, I mean, what's the plan then? Because they're trying to shoot this sort of phony documentary, and in order to do the virginity thing, they would automatically, they would have to show her having sex in inverted commas or being raped. But the way it cuts back to the people in the studio, the woman who, I'm not sure if I mentioned it, I don't think she's a very good actress, but I think that uncomfortable look. I think it's implied that at this stage, or at that stage, the producers they've decided they agree with him now. So we're now going through the very brutal deaths again. It's probably a little bit unrealistic that he managed to shoot this, but of course we need that for the sake of the film. So this is Jack, or Perry Perkinen, can't remember, getting completed. Again, the score of this film is just fucking incredible. So he's dead, very dead, cut in half. The HD quality of Blu-ray makes quite a bit of difference to these scenes, I must say. See, and it's moments like this where it's very easy to be sucked in, right? Because there's a lot of power in this. Like, there's a lot of power in this. I mean, it is so sensational, but I think it's better than that. I don't know that it's better than that, but I think it is, and it's largely because this is just shot in a much more effective way than most films of its ilk, but the film's earned the right to do this, to show us this excess. Like, this is, make no mistake, this is a minutes long scene of the cannibals brutalizing them. And again, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit, because obviously Alan's like zooming in, and that's fine, but he really should be using this time to escape. I'm sure he's aware by now that he's he has less ability to navigate this climate than the people doing the eating of his friend, so he might want to use his chance. Friend and girlfriend, I believe. But it's like the extent of the excess. It's like, here's something horrifying, and just keep watching, guys. Keep fucking watching it.
Trying to stay there for the last shot. I don't even know where we are now. I know they followed us and we lost everything trying to escape. We're screwed.
Oh, so it's just Jack that's dead.
I'm gonna try to scare him away with this. I hope it works.
Faye. That's in there. Now there's more. And see, it's like this again. The way Faye gets killed and everything is like, again, unbelievably over the top. But do we really feel sorry for her? Right? Do we feel sorry for any of them? And that is the power of this film, I think. And you know, in some ways, it probably doesn't have the right to make us feel that way, I don't think, but it does. And I think, I don't know how deliberate this is, but I think this is what it lands on, in my opinion. All four of them are sort of, at least up to, well, not all four of them, three of them, I think, up to a point, are likeable pricks. I don't find Perry Perkinen very likeable, or Jack. I think the other three, they're like, I don't know, they're like popular kids in school, right? But they're likeable. But there's a sense of evil or indifference to evil in them. So I think the film does suck us in slightly by it like, it's not holding anything back. It's not. I don't think it's telling us to expect anything good from them. But you know, the film turns us slowly, right? It gives us a little bit of detail, and poses the question: what did they do to deserve this, right? Or not even deserve it necessarily. And then we find out, and it's pretty brutal, right? Because, well, what I'm watching right now is extraordinarily brutal. Sorry, just some idiots outside of a Friday night. But like, we're probably indifferent to the cannibals at first as well, or even we don't like them at first. In fact, I'm probably working my way through this now. I'm thinking about it more and more. In fact, I've almost turned around on my opinion of the start of the film. Not that it isn't boring, as in the section before they find the footage. It doesn't overdo it, right? But the amount of the amount that we see of the cannibals in that section is enough for us to dislike them, right? So we start by disliking them. We don't hate them, but it's like we dislike them. And we don't necessarily have a reason to hate the documentarians, even when they find the footage. But we, as in initially when they find the footage, but we are told to be unsure, I think. And so that's the end of that. So anyway, I have gone on. I think the way the film sets us up to be a little bit disliking of the cannibals and liking of the way it flips us around, I'm going to be honest, having watched it and being able to talk my way through it as I've done it, despite having not watched all of it during this podcast, I think it's very emotionally effective in a way that I hadn't considered before. As in, I know it's emotionally effective, but I hadn't emotionally manipulative with the characters. But
I wonder who the real cannibals are.
I reckon that'll just about do us. Next week, it'll be their house on the edge of the park. Thanks, guys.